All right, I think we've allowed enough time for people to join so we can get started here. Just want to introduce myself. I'm Jeremiah Bauman. I'm the outgoing TKC chair, and I'm so glad that you are all able to join us today. I will pass this over to James to let him introduce himself to everybody so we can kick off the program for today.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm James Quisenberry. I'm the incoming Technology Knowledge Community Chair for the next 2 years. You're stuck with me for better or worse. First thing I have to say is thank you profoundly to Jeremiah for his leadership and his participation in the TKC over the last several years. He's been the chair the last 2 years, and but he was deeply involved even before that. So I'd like us all to give Jeremiah a round of applause and thank you. And what many of you may not get to see because you're not part of the leadership team is Jeremiah has done a lot to create structure for the technology knowledge community. So someone like me, who's coming in as an inbound chair, has all of the resources that Jeremiah's used over the last several years and what he learned from others at my fingertips, so that in 2 years, when hopefully one of you are taking the seat from me as we transition, you'll have just as much of a benefit from Jeremiah's work as I have. So thank you, Jeremiah. It's been great working together all this time. And he has promised not to disappear for a couple of months so that we can reach out if we find something we missed. We can check in with him. And so we do have an agenda for today. It's a simple agenda. I'll just give you the overview. We're going to spend a little time celebrating our awards. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the technology knowledge community and its leadership team, and the opportunity, let them introduce themselves and say a little bit about themselves. And then we're going to talk a little bit about accomplishments from the past years and what we might be looking forward to going forward. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask that each of you go ahead and put in the chat your email address and your institution so that we can save that away and make sure we have your contact information readily at hand after this meeting is over. And of course, we're not overly formal here, so if you have a question or a comment as we go forward, please get my attention, whatever way works. Waving your hands, flashing your background off and off, whatever, on and off, whatever works. So, putting our first things first, which is celebration. I'm going to ask Travis Pierce, our awards committee chair, to recognize our award winners for this year. We're not hearing you, Travis. And you don't look like you're on mute. I'm going to blame Ring.
How about now?
Yeah.
All righty. Leave it to a technology committee to have someone like me in it that struggles with technology. We all are learners in life, and the committee has graciously put up with me. So thank you, Jim, and most definitely to echo James, my thanks to Jeremiah for all of his work over the years. I get the fun job of recognizing the accomplishments of some amazing colleagues within higher education for some awards today. Unfortunately, not all of our award winners are able to be with us. We do have, I believe we have Dr. Anderson here, and we have Dr. Byrne here as well. And, as administrators and educators, both of you will be happy that the next person I'm going to talk about says, I have class and I can't be there to accept the Outstanding Graduate Student Award. So we're going to recognize our graduate student, even though they're not here, because it's important. So let's start out by talking about her nominator rights. She's more than adept at utilizing technological systems in daily work. As the pandemic unfolded, she showed grit and skill in learning how to use the latest technologies, ensuring our staff did not lose the human component of training. Side note, I'm very appreciative of stuff like that because I feel like we've lost that human component at times. She's known on campus as being a champion of technology and helping bridge the gap for her colleagues less skilled, people like me. Lastly, her nominator writes, I can think of no more better example of a graduate student who builds a foundation for their work in technology more than Miss Carpenetti. So congratulations to Marissa Carpenetti for being presented with the NASPA Technology KC Outstanding Graduate Student Award. So kudos to Marissa, and way to be a good graduate student and not show up because you have class. So I think we all appreciate that. Our next award is for the Small Research Grant, and it's being awarded to support the continuation of our research in the HBCU context. The study will add unique value to the field because most cyberbullying and online harassment research is conducted at PWIs, predominantly white institutions with the majority white student participants. From previous research at PWI, the researchers found that Black and African American students experience cyberbullying and online harassment victimization and bystander experiences at higher rates than the general majority white student population. Our researchers will address the following questions. How do undergraduate students and student affairs staff react to cyberbullying instances given the current policies and culture? What do undergraduate students and student affairs staff perceive the role of student affairs in remediating cyberbullying and online harassment issues between students? How do students and staff differ or relate in their perceptions? And 3, what resources, policies, or cultural norms do undergraduate students and student affairs staff wish they had to respond to or report instances of cyberbullying and online harassment? It is with great pleasure to recognize Dr. Virginia Byrne and her graduate student, Juliana Hollingsworth, with the Small Research Grant Award. Dr. Byrne, any comments from you? I believe you're here. I thought you were here a second ago. One of the things, while I'm not sure where the technology is, I very much appreciated Dr. Byrne and responding back to me when we announced the awards, that she immediately said, I really need to make sure that my graduate student is included on the award as one of the recipients because of the work that they're doing with them. So, it's because of academics such as yourself, that you're able to provide our graduate students such wonderful experiences. So my thanks to you. Lastly, I want to talk about the Research Assessment and Evaluation and Innovation Award that recognizes Dr. Deborah Anderson. This is one of those where I actually want to point out one of our committee members immediately said in one of the comments, and we got it here, it addresses questions that I've had about analytic tools, their success, and longevity since the emergence in the early 2010s. So we were very excited to receive this nomination for this award as well. So I'm going to read a little bit here. For this study, it's important to gain increased knowledge about predictive and learning analytics as emerging disciplines through historical review of data mining applications within higher education. Dr. Anderson's literature review led her to conversation with colleagues in the field where they discussed the question, institutions are really struggling. Can you extract a way for institutions to begin thinking about how they implement analytics? Are there enough common factors? So they set out and they had the central questions guiding the study were, what are the identifiable factors leading to successful analytic technology adoption? What are the best practice models for sustaining holistic application of analytic technologies? And 3, what are the potential barriers to sustaining analytic implementation? And it was really fun to kind of read through the rest of it in regards to the increased emphasis of institutional-wide analytic adoption, recognizing that a holistic approach to analytic implementation requires honest evaluation to determine institutional readiness and sustainability. They looked at current glimpses of analytic technology adoption exists, but do not offer the needed self-assessment required to sustain adoption fully, nor do they address institutional infrastructures, since most literature focuses on specific implementation of analytic tools. Scholarly literature addresses individual institutions' approach to implementing analytic technologies is scarce, and the lack of scholarly literature presents opportunities for higher education community to introduce a wider spectrum of case studies examining successful analytic implementation sustained over time. So we are most excited to award Dr. Deborah Anderson with the Research Assessment and Evaluation Innovation Award. Dr. Anderson, would you care to comment or share anything with us?
I'm just excited, and thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here with the technology knowledge community. Thank you for recognizing my work, and I'm excited that there's potential opportunities to partner and co-author. So I'm just excited and appreciate the acknowledgement. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson, for all your work. All righty. Well, at this point, I will turn it back over to either to James or Jeremiah. I'm not sure which way it goes, so I'll let you gentlemen figure it out.
I'm gonna thank you, Travis, and I appreciate your work and the committee's work on the awards. We do have another award, the Student Affairs Technology Emerging Practice Award, which was not awarded this year. And I see Dr. Byrne, you're back. If you had any comments to share with us about your award.
Yeah, sorry. Ring Central keeps crashing on me this week. It's been a journey. But thank you so much for recognizing our work. Yeah, Yana Hollingsworth and I are doing this sequence of studies where we're working with college students to see how they would like to be supported by student affairs folks as they navigate online harassment instances, either as the victim themselves or with their peers. And we do that work at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, and just really excited to have this funding to be able to provide an honorarium for our participants, because asking people to talk about their harassment experiences is hard, and it's really nice to be able to thank them with a little bit of money. So thank you so much, and and thank you so much for this committee. This is great.
Thank you again, and I'll just remind everyone who's on the call. We have been making these awards each year, and it's a way to be involved in our work and with the knowledge community to put in a proposal for that. Next on our agenda is I'm going to walk through the roles we have for the leadership group that helps make the knowledge community go. I'll lead off. I'm taking the chairmanship this year. I am a director of student affairs technology at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I've been involved with the TKC for about 5 years now, but I did spend, before I moved to leading the group in student affairs that I lead, I was director of IT for housing at Illinois for 10 years and was involved with the CUHO. And I think the TKC is a really good place for us to share experiences, best practices, and to maybe even do some writing and sharing with your colleagues. So I'm glad to help keeping it going forward. We don't have a chair-elect this year. Each time someone's elected into this conveyor belt, which is the chairmanship, they spend a year as chair-elect, which is what I did last year, learning from Jeremiah and his vast troves of knowledge about how to make this thing work. And so I spend this year working solo, and hopefully someone on this call, or someone from someone on this call, is interested in running to be chair-elect come November. I think the timeline for applying is October, and the election is in the early spring, and so we won't have a chair-elect this year. But if you're interested, start talking to me after this meeting. We also have regional representatives from around the NASPA regions in the United States, and I don't see our Region 1 rep on the call, Liam Rice, who I will also mention is the current editor of our journal that we publish, who is looking to step down. So Liam is going to continue to be our Region 1 representative, which is the Northeast coast area, but he is looking to hand the reins of the journal over to a new editor for this coming year. David Chow, I'll let you introduce yourself. He's one of our newer members of the leadership team for Region 2.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Chow. I am the Director of IT for Student Affairs at the University of Pittsburgh. I've been involved with NASPA for about 6 or 7 years now, and look forward to participating in the community.
All right, thank you, David. And I'm looking to see another person who has joined us recently is Keith Medlin. And I don't think I see Keith on the list. He just joined us this spring. He is from North Carolina State University, and he directs a student affairs technology team there. I'll talk a little bit more about him later. Region 4 East, you're also looking right now at the Region 4 East representative. That was my job last year when I was chair-elect, and I have not succeeded in finding a replacement for me in Region 4 East. So that's an open space. If you know someone who is in the Midwest, the east part of the Region 4, and who might be interested in getting more involved, please send their names my way. And Region 4 West, I see Josh is on the line. Josh, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Josh Maples, Director of Housing and Residence Life at Missouri Western State University. What school am I at today? Prior to coming to Missouri Western, I worked at South Dakota State for about 3 years. So I've been up and down the region, and been with NASPA for going on 6 years now, since I was at Fort Hays State in my grad program. So really looking forward to being in the TKC. It's been on my radar since grad school, and I'm really excited to be a part of it.
Thank you, Josh. Region 5 is also currently vacant. That would be in the Northwest. If you know someone out there who might be interested in joining our leadership group, please send their names my way. And Region 6 is vacant, but we have someone who's interested, and we're working on getting them on board. So we're not looking for that spot. Regional reps have a dual role. They participate in the leadership team of the national group for the knowledge community, but they also participate in their region with the various KCs in their region. What does that mean? Well, it can be different by regions. The regions have kind of their own ways of doing things. As I was a member of Region 4 East, we had a monthly meeting for the KC members in that region, but it was canceled about every other month. So it was checking in every other month with your colleagues that are KC reps. And you can also be involved with the regional conference that your region supports. And it's also a good place to recruit more people to be involved with the KC on the national level. So some other roles that we have. Paul, I have Ed Tech up next. Would you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about the Ed Tech role?
Sure. My name is Paul Shantz. I am the Director for Student Affairs at IT at California State University, Northridge. I myself have been in NASPA for, I think, about 7, maybe 8 years. But I've been at CSUN for about 15. The Ed Tech role is primarily, at least as I've understood it and I've carved it out, is about learning more about the different platforms and software services and the budgeting and the staffing concerns that are associated with the work that we do. And to that point, I think we have an agenda item a little further on. But as far as EdTech goes, I mean, virtually all of the work that we do is mediated by software in some form or other. And that's something that I take some interest in.
All right, thank you, Paul. Next one I have up is you've met Travis Pierce because he shared our awards, but he's in the role that's called Sponsored Programs and Awards Coordinator. And so, Travis, could you introduce yourself and talk about the sponsored programs portion of that?
Absolutely. I serve the committee here, but I also am the Director of Residence Education at Southern Illinois University in fabulous Carbondale, Illinois.
Go Salukis.
Go Salukis, you betcha. And my you betcha comes from my time in the Upper Peninsula in Michigan for 16 years. So I haven't gotten rid of that for some reason. It'll probably be with me for the rest of my life. But that's all right. I got to meet Jeremiah for the first time up there, and that's also been a life rewarding and affirming component. So anyway, what's really exciting about the work that I do is I get to recognize with my colleagues the efforts of those within the field. And one of the really exciting things about this year's award nominations, and when you stop and think about it being in a year of a global pandemic, there were some amazing award nominations. It just wasn't one in every category. It was, we had multiple in the different categories. And I was really proud. And while we did have one nomination for the Emergency Practice Award, and it was good. But I think what the committee has decided that, while it was good, it wasn't the work that they were talking about was being done at other campuses, and it really wasn't worthy of the national committee saying we want to award this as an emerging practice when we're looking at the caliber of all the other awards for which we gave this year. So as someone that sits on committees across campuses and different things, it's really nice when that intentionality is given behind the awards and making sure that when we are giving these out, it's just not because somebody applied, it's because they are most deserving. And that's why I was very excited to have the 3 award winners that we had this year. So again, Dr. Byrne, Dr. Anderson, and graduate student Marissa are just phenomenal individuals that represent the great work of our field and positively reflect our technology community. So thank you very much. And that's all I have to say, because I will ramble on for a while longer if I don't shut up now.
And we should mention that we when the program is being created for the national conference, we as a group can endorse or sponsor programs that want to be tied to our knowledge community. You can tie your program to various knowledge communities, and this year I think we had 3 programs as a part of the virtual conference that had the technology knowledge community seal of approval, at least.
Well, James, you're fitting right into your role, just like Jeremiah has done for me over the years. When I forget half of what I'm supposed to do or say, he was always there to cover me. So glad to see that you're picking right up where Jeremiah left off. So thank you.
He's trained me well. At least I hope he has. Moving right along, Stacy Ballard could not be here today. She has a role that is a dual role. You'll notice that some of these roles are dual roles because things have been put together. She was originally the representative for our communities fair, which doesn't have the same kind of flavor in a virtual conference that it would have historically, where we could stand around a table and chat as we picked up pens or other tchotchkes. But she has also taken on, and she's from Western Michigan University, I believe. And the other thing that she's taken on is NASPA has developed this virtual learning engagement role that goes with the knowledge communities. And when that became an opportunity, Stacy stepped right up and volunteered to do that. And that means if we do any actions as the knowledge community, like a webinar or some kind of online training event or something, she is our go-between between us and NASPA to get things set up. And there's a rigid schedule that we have to follow if we want to do that. But Stacy is our expert on that, and she's been trained and ready to go. I don't know if I've seen Dimitri Morgan on. He is our faculty liaison. Dimitri, are you out there? There are a couple of participants that I can't quite tell who they are. But since he has not spoken up, I'm going to assume he's not out there. We also, I think I see Jeff Putnam out there. Jeff, could you talk about the Senior Student Affairs Liaison role?
Sure. So thanks, James. The Senior Student Affairs officer's liaison is exactly what it sounds like. So it's a Chief Student Affairs Officer representative to make sure that the perspective of a Chief Student Affairs Officer is able to impact on the activities of the TKC. So that's my role, and I fill in wherever I'm needed. I should have started by saying I'm the Vice President for Academic and Student Affairs, actually, at SUNY Downstate Health Sciences University in Brooklyn, New York.
All right, thank you. And then the last position that is on our list as a position is called the marketing coordinator. Over the years, we've had some great marketing coordinators associated with the knowledge community, technology knowledge community. But unfortunately, marketing created their own knowledge community, and we've lost several of our great members to that role. And our most recent coordinator for marketing, who has, helps us out with our website and our social media presence and various other things. Jeremiah, do you want to say anything more about what it's done in the past?
Sure. So as obviously time has moved on and technology has changed, specifically with NASPA, this role has kind of jumped around a little bit, where it did start off as like a webmaster role, and then it moved a little bit over. We do have a Facebook group, and then we have our Twitter. So this role would help with that. I can see the role helping coordinate email newsletters that go out. So partnering with James and working on the messaging there, and also being able to support anything going on in the regions as well.
All right, thank you. And of course, you've heard that we have a couple of roles empty. That means we have room for people to join us, but we're not limited to adding people to the leadership group in a particular role. We can add at-large members. So if you're interested in getting more involved with the KC, but don't quite know where you would want to, take up a responsibility, that would be an option too. We get together on a monthly basis and talk about what activities we are going to plan, and talk about the process for awards and the journal and several other things to keep this knowledge community moving forward. So that brings me to the last part of our agenda, which is talking about some accomplishments and goals that we have. And when we get done with this section, we should have a little bit of time for people to chat and raise questions if they have them. So we'll walk through these. There's 5 areas that I wanted to bring up today with regard to that. The first is our Technology and Higher Education Journal, Emerging Practice, which was launched last year. And I'm going to ask Jeremiah to talk about it a little bit, since our editor Liam is not here today.
Yeah, so this journal has been around technically for quite a few years. We received approval a while back, and it was just trying to get it off the ground. A lot of different hurdles. Trying to have a great editing board and an editor-in-chief. As people always do in higher ed, people switch roles at universities, and so that made it complicated. So one of my goals was to make sure before my time was up with NASPA to get a publication out. And so luckily, Liam started the role, and he just did an amazing job running with it, getting everything together, able to publish that first edition. Celebrate, because that was such a huge win for the TKC. There are a couple of manuscripts in now for a second publication, so we're moving forward with that. But it just really shows how important technology is, where we were able to justify to come up with a peer-reviewed journal. And so I think that was one of the big things we wanted to focus
on. All right, thank you, Jeremiah. I will also mention that one of the things associated with the journal is there's a cost. And we've been working this last year to figure out how to make it sustainable. I believe NASPA helped us pay for the first one. And we we are both looking at establishing a long-term special fund, which KCs can establish, which is a place where members or other supporters, whether they be companies or other groups, can contribute to a special fund, and with the intent that that special fund would initially be focused on longer term sustainability for the journal. And I'm happy to report that we received a donation this year in the amount of $1,000 that should help us publish this year's journal, and will probably cover the next journal. I think the journal was expected to potentially be a twice-a-year publication, but once a year would be a good pace to maintain. And if you're interested in either writing for the journal or being on the editorial board, or maybe even being the editor, reach out to me and I will get you connected to Liam, and we can talk about whether that's how you could get involved. So the next thing I wanted to mention, so the journal is one accomplishment that Jeremiah should be proud of. He stewarded that, and then Liam took it on and made it go forward. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I had Jeremiah talking about this too, but we'll see how his microphone works out. I can talk a little bit about it. Is before I got involved with the TKC, they had developed they had helped develop the professional competency areas for student affairs educators in technology. And so that competency is the result of our work, the TKC's work. And it is a tool that student affairs organizations around the country can use to evaluate the competency of their staff. And as you all know, a competency is not useful if you don't review it every now and then, and particularly with a technology competency, it needs to be cared for and fed over time. So it is something that I have on our radar as something we need to maintain. I believe at this point it is about 5 years old. Just nod, Jeremiah, if I'm close. It's either 4 or 5 years old, roughly. Yeah. And so next item I want to talk about is the 2021 Student Affairs IT Survey, which is not a product of the TKC, but a joint product of several organizations. And I'm going to ask Paul and David to talk a little bit about that. Paul?
Thanks, James. So for many of you, you've probably already heard about this, so I won't talk for too long about it. But we have the Student Affairs IT National Survey. This is in its second iteration. And this year we decided, instead of calling it a version 2.0, which is something that I was doing, which kind of reflects my background in software development, to just name it by the year. So it's going to be the 2021 Student Affairs IT Survey. If you had not heard about this, but if you have been in technology in student affairs for any length of time, you're probably aware of EDUCAUSE. EDUCAUSE is the world's largest higher education technology-focused organization, and they have a product that they deliver to their membership every year. And it's a survey it's primarily focused on enterprise software and budgets for technology usage on campuses. And the results of that survey are turned into an annual report, which also has some dashboards and so on associated with them. And most, if not all of you, are probably very familiar with the process of purchasing new software for student affairs departments. And the kinds of questions that I had been fielding in the 15 years that I've been doing this work is, hey, Paul, what's a common career services platform that's being used? Where there are birds of a feather communities for all of the different operational areas. And, they talk amongst themselves like, hey, what are you using to do such and such? So around 2017, I'd had a conversation with David Sweeney from Texas A&M, and they had done a survey of the Texas A&M universities and they wanted to know a little bit more about like, hey, what software are we using across the system so that we can realize economies of scale and perhaps, buy in bulk and that sort of thing. And that was kind of the impetus for the development of this product. I'm putting a link into the chat if you want to learn a little bit more about the history of it. But we are only 1 week away now from actually launching this version of the survey. And I'm going to have David talk a little bit more about that. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that we have a communications plan. So the survey is going to launch on April 1st, April Fool's Day, and it's going to run through the end of, I'm sorry, it's October 1st, if I'm not mistaken. David, correct me on that if I'm wrong. But we're going to have 3 communications go out about that. The first one will be on April 1st. Second one will be July 1st, so, midsummer time, so that folks can have an opportunity to, get that reminder. And then there'll be that last chance reminder message is going to go out on September 1st. And I'm going to go ahead and pop the test survey into the chat here. So if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what it is, but in a nutshell, the idea is that it's going to capture the information about your student affairs division, about your student affairs IT services, whether it's centralized or decentralized, the different student affairs IT services, and then the applications as well. And we feel that we're hoping to get at least 300 universities responding to this. And the idea is that the results of the survey, the reporting on this will serve as a wonderful benchmarking tool and potentially can be used for peer reviews. One of the things that has been missing, I know, at least on our campus, every student affairs department, they have some form of a peer review every few years. And that's not something that my department has ever done in all the time that we've been there. And definitely something that's missing. There's a number of folks that are actually on this call that had contributed to this, but I could go on and on and on. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to David Chow so he can talk a little bit more about it because he's the guy who actually put the thing together. David?
Thanks, Paul. So yeah, in a nutshell, I think in my 10 years in student affairs, what I've learned is that just about every institution does IT a little bit differently. And so this is also a way for us to capture some of those differences. And so there are questions about, structure, about ownership of certain services, in addition to what software you use. And as Paul talked about, we're going to be sending emails out to members of TKC, members of our EDUCAUSE student affairs community, as well as IT pros. We realize many of you may not be necessarily the person that's going to respond or the only person who's going to respond to the survey. So please do spread the word. If you can pass it to other IT people that you work with, or colleagues at IT colleagues at other institutions. I know I'm going to put a bug in my VPSA's ear to kind of get the word out to some of his colleagues. We would appreciate any spreading of word of mouth. And also Jeffrey, we might be connecting with you to try to get this in front of maybe some VPSAs through NASPA. That would be great, because they can kind of drive it down to their IT staff and get participation as well.
Happy to do that.
And then, one of the things that David and I had talked about, I'm sorry to talk over you there, David. Our hope was that, this could eventually become a product, that would be used by NASPA and potentially, a crossover, with EDUCAUSE. So like as a partnership. But until we've actually reached a state where it's big enough, I don't think that we're going to be able to do that. But one of the ways that we intend to get the word out about this is just through the various membership lists. Sorry for cutting you off there.
Oh, no worries. One last comment, that link that is in the chat, that is a test version, and there is red text on the first page. It's not for submission, it's just for people to see. So there will be another live link that won't have, red do not submit, text on it. So thank you all.
All right, thank you. Just 2 more agenda items and then we can talk about anything you want. The next one I had was about goals. And so one of the things that I'm going to be focusing on this year is membership and our leadership group to make sure we have all our roles filled and that we have a good collection of individuals participating with the TKC so that we can kind of broaden our base. And to that end, I want to say thanks to the Student Affairs IT Pros group. I see Anne-Marie and Chris are here today. Anne-Marie and Chris, I'll go Anne-Marie first. Could you introduce yourselves and talk about the SAIT Pro group?
Sure. Hi. Thanks for inviting us to participate today. I'm Anne-Marie Richard. I'm the Associate CIO and Director for Student Affairs IT at University of California, Berkeley. And with Chris, am co-chair of the SAIT Pros community, which is also a kind of linked group with the EDUCAUSE Student Affairs IT community group. And so this is I've just been doing this now for have we been here about a year, Chris? And really happy to see the coming together of these different communities. And so SAIT Pros is largely a Slack community, which means it's a great place to just kind of introduce yourself, throw questions out there. I've gotten a lot of help from folks since I joined it, and just, questions about platforms, great opportunity to post when there are open positions at your institution, and just kind of a overall real helpful community. EDUCAUSE is another professional association. Some of you may be part of that for higher ed IT, and it has a community group that functions kind of similarly to the NASPA TKC. And so that's a really large group. And so we've been holding our monthly meetings kind of in conjunction with each other. And it's been great having the TKC folks participate in that as well, because there's so much overlap. I think we find in EDUCAUSE, there's maybe not quite enough attention always paid for us in student affairs. So it's very technology and tools focused, but there isn't always a lot of super useful information for student affairs folks. There's some, but it's not a big focus. And then I think in NASPA over the years, I used to be a much more regular NASPA attendee, and it felt like there was a lot of great student affairs focus, but maybe a little less on the technology and tools front than we would have liked to see. So for me, being part of these two communities has been super helpful. And I'll turn it over to Chris.
Well, I can't add much besides I'm the IT director for student affairs at Carolina, and that's really about it. I'm doing nothing but COVID stuff these days, as a lot of us are. I hope there is not a conference for COVID, because I am not going to go to it. I've heard enough.
Yeah, that'll be a virtual conference, Chris, so you don't have to go to it. So, the reason why I asked them to introduce themselves, one, because they were great, they were nice enough to invite their group to join us today. We're kind of like breaking the rules, I think, by opening the doors to our business meeting to anybody who might be interested. The distinction between EDUCAUSE and NASPA is EDUCAUSE is a by organization membership, so you can get access to resources fairly easily as a member of an organization that has joined EDUCAUSE. Whereas NASPA, the organizations join, but each of the individual participants have to be members to do official things. So if you want to be a regional rep, to put you on the roster, you have to pay your, what is it, $80 a year to be a member of NASPA. And in some organizations, that's not a big thing. And other organizations, that's a tough thing to do, because the organization can't pay for it for the employees, so the employee has to decide if they're going to pay for it or not. So that's a challenge that I want to address. I'm sure I'm not going to change NASPA's ways, but I want to make more value in being involved in the TKC so that it is worth $80 a year to be able to participate in a more engaged fashion in this component of NASPA. This won't replace SAIT Pros, and it won't replace the EDUCAUSE community of interest around student affairs, but I see a lot of the same people at each of those things. So, we're moving in the same circles, and in this world where it feels like professional organizations are under threat of, financial implications and other reasons, binding together the groups that are working in different areas but have the same interest is a good move from my perspective, and will strengthen our membership. Maybe not all across the board, but people will find their way to be involved. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is something that
He looks good.
Yeah, frozen a good spot.
It's normally when I freeze, I look like an idiot. So I think it looks great.
Tune in next week for the end of the cliffhanger.
That's right.
Well, as we're waiting for James to come back online, just crashing your meeting. My name is Matt Clifford, and I serve on the NASPA board as the Knowledge Communities Director. So I just wanted to pop in and say thank you to everybody in the TKC, and to really just offer my gratitude to certainly to Jeremiah and for others on the leadership team for what you do to create this community. Knowledge communities are of course a real special hold a special place in my heart, and I do my best to advocate for them to the NASPA board, and just again think that what an incredible showcase of communities among colleagues, especially in the current environment that KCs I think are really offering something special that's been needed. And I'm just really grateful to everybody for your roles in shaping the communities, and of course for being here to contribute to the conversation and advancing knowledge in our field. So I just wanted to stop in and say thanks. Normally I'd be like running across a convention, hotels and stuff. So it's actually super easy to just jump in, and I've got like 3 KCs on my slot for this hour. So just click.
All brought to you by technology.
That's right. Cool. I didn't mean to interrupt your agenda, but it seemed like a good spot to jump in since there was some bandwidth issues, it sounded like.
Yes, thank you for stepping in. I don't see James back on, so I'm guessing that might have been a full restart crash on his end. But basically what I'm going to do now, I think that's pretty much wrapping things up. I'm just going to stop the recording and give folks a chance to just chat and say whatever you'd like to say as we kind of close out the hour here.